Well, you're right, guys. Here we go with a flaky pastry recipe. And why I'm doing this is I had a eureka moment. When I normally film a dish, I always show you me making the pastry. So I thought, why not put the pastry making outside of the dish, make the dish recipe quicker, and then you can refer back to the pastry recipe. Hope that makes sense. So to make around 500 grams of pie dough, we need 300 grams of plain flour, 125 grams of stone cold butter, 1 teaspoon of salt and 6 tablespoons of iced water. It needs to be very, very cold. Iced water is best. Now, if you're making a savoury pastry, you can add a teaspoon of mustard powder, or if it's a sweet pastry, you can add a tablespoon of sugar. But whichever type you're making, you need to put the salt in. Stick around to the end and I'll give you a tip on how to make it even flakier and more buttery tasting. Well, here we go then. We're going to be using a food processor for this one, but the first thing we need to do is to dice or cube the butter. This is half a block of butter in the UK, 125 grams. So I just slice this into 3. Then I cut each slice in half lengthways and cut each stick into 3, which by my reckoning is 18 little cubes, and they're about a centimetre, ½ inch each, and just push them to one side. You can see that the butter's warming up already. If you think the butter's getting too warm, you can pop it back in the fridge for 10 minutes, or to make it even easier, why not cube the butter before you start and leave it in the fridge. We're going to weigh out the flour, and again you can do this ahead of time, but I want to show you me doing it. So 300 grams of plain flour, in with a teaspoon of salt, and like I said, whether you're doing savoury or sweet, you need to put salt in both types of pastry. And as I'm doing a savoury pastry, I put in a teaspoon of mustard as well. Bring on the food processor and we have what I call the vicious blade in. Put half the flour into the bowl, all of the cubed butter, and then the rest of the flour. And the idea behind this is you're coating the butter, stopping it sticking to the sides of the bowl. And this is real-time footage from now on, just to show you how quick this is. Pulse the blender on and off, very short pulses for about 30 seconds. And the idea of pulsing it is you allow the mix to settle between pulses and it gets stirred up again and chops the butter a bit more. Off with the lid, have a quick look and you'll see the butter's all various shapes and sizes, little bits, big bits, just what we're looking for. In with the 6 tablespoons of iced water. And I'm placing these around the bowl a bit so there's no gooey mess in any one particular spot. Back on with the lid and we'll start pulsing again. A little bit longer this time. And what we're looking for is the mix to turn into breadcrumbs and start to turn a creamyish, yellowish colour. I'm trying to show you this. There, see, it's getting a little bit darker. There we are. Compared to the pale bit at the bottom. That's it. And that is it done. So have a quick look inside. Give the breadcrumbs, which look nothing like pastry at the moment, give them a quick squeeze. And if it sticks together, there we are, that's it. Take the blade out of the bowl. Always a good idea this, it saves your fingers. Tip the mix out onto your work surface and bring it together. Try to work it as little as possible. You're trying to keep it cool. You don't want the butter to start melting. Use the big lump to dab up all the little pieces. Flatten the ball out and wrap it in cling film, but I wanted to use it in 2 different recipes, so I've halved it, flattened each piece out, and then wrapped each piece in cling film. And then put it in the fridge for at least an hour before you start using it. And as promised, my tip for an even flakier pastry, put the cubed butter into the freezer and take it out the freezer as soon as you're ready. This keeps the butter in larger chunks and you'll get bigger flakes on your pastry. I like to use this one on my sweet dishes. And there we have it, flaky pastry, all ready to roll out and use. I hope you try this one, guys. Take care, catch you on the next recipe.